Now this is another example of a typical storefront door. This door doesn't have a push bar, it's just a mortise cylinder, cylinder on both sides. And as you get into business, you're going to come into contact with many of these. These are very lucrative business for locksmiths, is rekeying and taking care of storefront doors. So we're going to look at how the mortise cylinder comes out of this door. And it's very simple, it just takes a few minutes. I'm going to do some close-ups here to show exactly what we're dealing with. Cylinder, again, it's double cylinder on both sides. It could be a thumb turn on the inside, but this door is a typical setup for the cylinder on both sides. And then on the edge here of the door, you can see the plate that covers the lock mechanism, the latch mechanism. And there's 3 screws here that we're going to take out. And right behind those 3 screws, there'll be a set screw that will hold each one of those lock cylinders in. You can see on this side the other cylinder. Now the outside cylinder has a guard over it. You always want to carry a few of these guards in your van. If they don't have one of these over their cylinder, it's a good idea to go ahead and sell them one. This makes it more difficult to use a pipe wrench to twist that cylinder out of there and break into the building. So that's why you want a protective guard over this. The guard will turn. If you put a wrench on that, the guard will just turn around. So we're going to go ahead and take these screws out. Okay, so all we have to do to get these cylinders out is loosen these set screws a little bit. This particular one takes a 1/16 Allen wrench. Then just take a key blank or a key that doesn't turn the lock. You don't want to use the correct key, because it'll just simply turn the plug around there. But take a key that is not the right key, and then just unscrew the cylinder right out of the lock mechanism. I want to show you how to take this assembly out, so I'm going to go ahead and remove these cylinders from both sides. But you can see this is just like the cylinder that we worked with in rekeying and other videos. It has a tail piece on the back. Take the tail piece off, take the plug out, and then you can rekey it and put it back in. You should always carry a couple of these cylinders also on your van. You could come out and find that you need to replace the cylinder that is just completely worn out. So we're going to go ahead and take this one out. Just unscrew it out of there. And it's the same thing with the tail piece, standard mortise cylinder. This latch mechanism is simply held by 2 screws. And it may be necessary from time to time to replace one of these, so I'm going to go ahead and show this. You wouldn't normally take these out unless you have to. These sometimes can be a little bit difficult to get back in and get lined up. I mean, it's not like it can't be done, but if you don't have to take it out, you don't want to. You see there's springs on the other side of these screws. That's basically all that holds this latch mechanism in there. The screw has a spring over it, and it puts pressure against the the latch mechanism as you tighten the screw, and that holds it there. That's all that holds that in there. It's very simple. Of course, then the cylinders go through it, so they also help to secure the latch mechanism in the door. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Now the challenge here is to get the screws to line up with the screw holes again, because the screws tend to drop down and not line up correctly. So you have to kind of just play around with that a little bit till you get them started. As you're putting this back in and trying to line it up, it may be helpful to go ahead and open this latch mechanism up. Just use a screwdriver and move the latching assembly here. Get the bolt to come out. Then you can have a place to grab that a little better if you need to. And you can see this bottom screw. Okay, so we got the bottom screw started, and then the top screw, same thing. Now you can't. The bottom screw, usually we can kind of see it and feel it and help move it around a little bit. The top one is more difficult, and normally just try to push on that, get that screw straight, and try to get over there and see if it'll line up with the screw hole. Okay, and there we go. That one is started back. So normally it's a pretty simple operation to get those back in there. I will caution you, when you take these apart, if you do have to take one of these out and you plan on using the old parts, be careful not to let those drop down inside the door. Sometimes it's impossible to get them back. Now we don't tighten this up real tight. We just put that in there. Remember, there's spring pressure on that, so we can keep tightening and tightening. But what we want is, we want the holes in the latch mechanism to line up with the mortise cylinders. So we just tighten it up a little bit until it looks like we have it lined up properly. Now I'm going to go ahead and try to start the mortise cylinder on the back side. Now I can actually look through the front and see that go in there. Put that in there. And again, we want to make sure that the keyway is at the bottom of the cylinder and that it's lined up so that the notch in the side of the cylinder will line up with the set screw. This is the spot right here. You can see where the set screw hits against this cylinder here. And there's one on both sides. But you want that, normally speaking, the plug will be at the bottom. There are some applications where it has to be the other way, but normally it's going to be at the bottom. When you come out to a business and you're rekeying, if it's at the top, it probably has to be that way to work the assembly correctly for their setup. And if it's at the bottom, then you want to put it back that way. So you'll notice that when you come out to the site. You know, we're going to go ahead and put this one back in. Again, just put a key in there, not the right key, key blank, whatever. Almost all of these are SC1 keyways. They can be other keyways, but most of them you come across will be the SC1 keyway. Very gently Get that lined up. There it goes. Now you want the latch mechanism to stay pretty much in the center of the door. And if you tighten one of these too much, it can pull it one way or the other way. So you want to pay attention and not over tighten one side. Tighten both sides evenly. And I can see through here, I can see the side of the mortise cylinder and put it in the correct position. Okay, so once you check and make sure that both cylinders are in the right position, go ahead and tighten the set screws back. Now again, these just need to be snug. You don't want to over tighten them. Especially with Allen screws, they can strip out real easy. You want to get the correct key and make sure that the door works okay. And we can see that it does. So all we need to do now is put our plate back on here. I'm going to shoot a little WD-40 on this before I leave the job. Make sure it's lubed up good. But all we have to do is, again, maybe put a little WD-40 on it, put our plate back on, our 3 screws back in there, and we'll finish this up. Yeah, I shot some WD-40 on here, and I also had to back this cylinder off one turn. It was just the keyway was operating too tight, I thought. So I went ahead and I backed it off one turn. Then we want to just check these and make sure that these are snug here. Now this can be loose, like I say, it's spring loaded, but just check and make sure that it's not too loose. And then that the mechanism works fine. And that's all there is to it. So make sure it's working smooth before you leave. If you have to replace this mechanism to make it work smooth, or the mortise cylinders, then go ahead and explain that to the owner and put the new parts in there that you need. But this one is working fine. Okay, we got our plate back on here. Got all 3 screws back in. All we need to do now is check and make sure that the locks work okay. You can see that one works fine. And of course, if I wasn't doing this for the video, I would have the door closed and be checking it with the door closed. And of course, I'll do that before I leave to make sure that this does line up properly with the hole in the door frame. I'm going to check the other side real quick. And we can see that both sides work fine. The latch pops out like it's supposed to. All of our set screws are back in. Our face plate's back on. And we've completed this rekey job on this commercial door front. This door has a push bar on it. And I'm going to rekey this cylinder, so I'm going to show how to take the cylinder out. Now you can see it's a typical cylinder there. A push bar on the inside. And all we're going to have to do is just remove this Normally what we have to do is remove this cap right here on the end of the push bar. Sometimes we have to remove the entire push bar. Just depends on the manufacturer. Okay, there's a screw on the top right here, and there's a screw on the bottom up under here. So it's 2 screws, and then that comes off. And then there's 2 more large screws here. And then there's 2 screws here that actually hold the cylinder. So you can see there's a total of 6 screws to remove out. Doesn't take very long. Right there it is. So then we go ahead and rekey that just like we demonstrated in the rekey video. This particular cylinder here, it has a clip on the back. Very simple, just push the clip off, push the plug out, and rekey it. Put it back in, we do this the opposite. Just tighten them up snug. This is aluminum, you don't want to overdo it. And you have to make sure that this tail piece on this lock fits back into this. There's a piece on the other side of the push bar here that goes in that hole. Wiggle it around a little bit until it goes up in there. Try to get it right in the center. And we have our large screws that go back and hold the push bar on. All we have to do is put the cap back on, put the 2 screws back in the cap, hold the cap on. In this case here, we have to, this particular design, you have to push that in to get this on. Push your push bar in, get your cap on there, put it back in place, put the 2 screws back in, and we're finished. So here's a close-up of this lock mechanism. We have the big screw here that holds on. There's 2 of these that hold on the push bar to this side of the door. And sometimes it's necessary to release a screw on the other end. But usually if you just release one end, then it will drop up or down enough. And then as the cap goes on, then there's a screw on the top and a screw on the bottom that holds that in. And that's once this is out, then the 2 screws are behind this. So a total of 6 screws. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to take it apart, and 2 or 3 minutes to put it back together. Very simple operation. So don't be nervous about push bars when you get a job to rekey a commercial storefront. Just go ahead and get a screwdriver, and sometimes they're Allen screws that you need an Allen wrench. But same type of procedure, very simple to get apart. Start looking at storefront locks. As you go into a building, notice what kind of lock set is on the door. If you are not familiar with it, make some notes about it and look it up, either online or in a supply catalog. You could order a storefront lock mechanism and a couple of mortise cylinders to study. Sooner or later, you'll be able to sell those anyway. Take them apart and study their construction. It will not take long, and you will feel like an old pro with these locks. That concludes this video. I want to thank you for buying this video. We hope you found it informative. Please take just a moment to like the video and also subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.